What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's doing well. If you're new here, my name is Lucas and this is my dad, Rod. A little bit of a different video for you guys today. We're taking a break from the monotonous Jeep content and we're going to show you guys a little bit of what we like to use in the garage, or what we use most of, kind of our top 10 list of tools and that we think everyone should have, or at least kind of basics.
Or I think it's more the ones we tend to be grabbing the most, right?
Yeah, so just go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the ones we grab the most, are always finding that we're using them all the time.
Yep.
Among all the other tools in the world, these are the ones that we tend to work with on a regular basis.
Yeah, like if we had to start fresh, this is exactly what we would buy over again, because it just makes our life easier. It's what we use, like you were saying, like we use the most of. So we're gonna start kind of from basic to extreme. We don't really categorize it like that, but we're gonna start out with something simple and then move up from there. So here we go. All right, first things first, hammers. This is my favorite because I love destroying stuff, and whether it's working on stuff or just destroying stuff for fun, hammers are always useful. We have some ball peens, a mini sledge, fender and dolly set, is that what you would call it?
So these are the hammers that go with the dollies, which are inside the box here. These are some Eastwood hammers that we got from Eastwood. These things come in handy for a little bit of everything. Traditionally, they're meant for body work, but we use them for a lot of other things as well, and different shape sizes, ends, things like that. But yeah, I think the ball peen hammers are the ones that we tend to grab more than anything else. 3 different sizes there. This is personally my favorite, the mid-size one. I don't know if that's kind of like Goldilocks or not, but
I don't know. The smaller one is just, I think, easier to use. It's just, I don't know. Typically, you can tell how much more beat up this one is.
yeah.
But this one has taken some abuse. You can even tell the end we use to bang on stuff. So
yeah, we use every part of that hammer.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, even all the ends on. Then this one is, if none of these are working, typically we'll pull this one out just because it's got some weight. Is this a 5 pound?
You know what? I'm not sure, but I'll go with that.
Yeah, feels like a 5 pound, 3, 4, something like that. But kind of the very basics. Hammers are what we use a lot of, especially if a bolt doesn't want to just push right through. We smack it with a hammer. Hammering a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but punches, chisels, dies, things like that. We use quite a bit of these hammers for different things too. So.
Yeah, so hammers, number one. Not like number one is in there the best, but that's the first on our list. So
and if you guys have any hammers that you like to use that are a little bit different than these, that work well for you, let us know. We'd like to try it out.
Yeah, so part of this, first off, this is all opinion based. We don't want to ruin any people's whatever. This is just what we like to use. And if you see anything, recommendations, tools that we should get or that we don't already know about, whatever, just put it in the comments. We'd love to hear what you guys think about the tools we already use or what you would recommend in place of some of these. So we'll move on to the next ones.
All right, everybody, so next on the list are some pry bars, and kind of a weird mix of things here. One of these on this table is my favorite, and I know it's probably gonna be his as well, but these are some of the pry bars that we tend to grab the most for, God, it could be
mostly suspension
stuff, yeah.
Pulling links out of the suspension, literally everything. Mostly suspension stuff though.
Right. I mean, obviously this thing's pretty big, but it's come in handy when we're trying to get an upper or lower link in position, and we just can't do it physically with our hands. Just some smaller pry bars that are come in handy for a lot of little things, but personally, this is my favorite, and I think this is probably gonna be one of yours too.
Yeah.
As corny as this may be, it's just a crescent wrench with a tapered end on it for the handle. And I can't tell you how many times we've used this to align a bolt hole for links and everything.
Yeah, so you know how in links, the inner ends move, or inside the joint itself, it moves, and you can align that with the bolt holes. Well, sometimes if they're brand new, they're not easily movable, so you can't just move them with your finger.
Right.
And when we get that link in there, or we have to move it, we can stick this there, pry whichever way we want, whereas something like this, you can't just stick into that link and move it. So we found using this, you can just move it around wherever you need it. And then even when you get the link in the bracket, you can stick it through the bolt hole of the bracket and the link and align them that way. We're usually, it's either this or like screwdrivers, but this is a lot.
This is kind of tapered, so
it's even bent.
Yeah,
I just noticed that.
Well, we've bent it, but I've had to bend it back, so it might be good to get an extra one of those just to have on my hand. But this thing has come in handy so many times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can use it as an actual wrench.
I think we've used this end.
I don't even think I've ever used it
10 times more
wrench.
than this end, exactly. So, anyways, you guys have any other recommendations for pry bars, alignment?
I know there's a ton of pry bars out there. So.
Yeah, we need to add a little bit more to our collection.
Yeah, this one I say we use a lot of as well. We use this a lot for drive shafts.
Yeah.
To shorten them in order to get them out and do stuff like that.
So drive shaft spinning, we put it in there, lock it so that we can keep it from spinning.
Yeah, so.
Any joint, that's what it's
Yeah, so pry bars are a huge aspect or a huge tool that we use often. So these first two tools are hand tools, I'd say. They're kind of the very basics. And we're gonna start moving on to some stuff that is battery and plug-in. So,
and obviously we left out, ratchets and wrenches. Those are kind of standard issue, and everybody's got their own favorite with that. So we could bore you guys to death with all different ratchets. But these are just some, we thought, unique tools that we would share with you guys.
Exactly. All right, next on our list, or third up, is gonna be ratchets, or yeah, I guess these are ratchets. Ratchets, impacts, things you put sockets on, we'll just call it that. So we have, I guess you could separate these into three different types. These are the nimble ones, these are the battery powered, nimble. Yeah, they can get into areas that you can't reach easily. So
if you're sticking with nimble, we'll ride with that.
Nimble ratchets. And then these are some bigger versions or battery operated versions of air impacts. So we'll start with these. This is our Ryobi. We have 3 rigid. We're kind of partial to Ryobi and rigid. We have a lot of it, so that's what we use most of. But this is a 1/4 inch. I think we use this and the 3/8 the most, just because of just the popular sizes. Plus, I feel like bolts that are in hard to reach areas are typically smaller, like in the engine compartment and stuff like that. So
under dashes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the smaller heads or attachments are what we use most of. And we have this in 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. I don't think we've ever used this. It looks brand new.
Yeah, but like you said, it sounds kind of weird, but we didn't even know we had it until we pulled it out.
Yeah, we just pulled it out and didn't know we had it, but because I don't think we've ever used it, but we have it if we need it.
Yeah.
Moving on to the trigger operated.
Just say battery powered impacts.
Yeah, battery powered impacts, we call it that. So I think we use these two more than really anything else, whether it's removing wheels, putting wheels on, bolts for all of the suspension, shocks, I mean, pretty much everything we use these for. And then this is just a little subcompact if you gotta get into a tighter area. This is a 3/8 drive right there.
Yeah.
And then these are both 1/2 inch. So we also brought out some dinosaurs. I know people are gonna be partial to these because they're air operated and they have their own scene and people prefer them. For us, it's a lot of work to pull air hoses down, kind of gets in the way of things when we can just pop a battery onto this and be good to go. But yeah, we used these for a long time before we did anything, but I don't think we had anything battery operated. So
it's kind of funny when I remember when we first got these, I thought we like kind of got into the modern times.
Yeah. As
opposed to using a hand ratchet. I can't tell you how little we've used this since we started using battery.
We haven't. They've been sitting in the freaking toolbox since any of this battery operated stuff. God dang, I can't talk today. Since we got any of this battery operated stuff, we haven't even pulled these out.
Yeah, and like he said, it's like dragging the air hose down, making sure the compressor's full of air. Even though we got a really nice Ingersoll Rand 2-stage, it's a beautiful compressor. We just use it for other things, but these things sit in the drawer more than they're ever used.
Yeah.
We use these quite a bit, and we actually take these on a lot of our off-roading and camping trips.
Yeah, so that's a huge plus to a lot of these battery operated tools that we'll show you today. And I think I bring in our camping trips one of these and one of these, just so we have the options.
Yeah, I think between the two of us, we'll split up what tools we carry, so we always have one of each.
Yeah.
Is either his rig or my rig.
Doesn't mean you can't bring the air operated tools, because I have a power tank. You can bring an air compressor if you wanted, but it's a lot to lug around when you can literally just, that's all you need.
Pop a battery in it.
And you can charge them while you're driving. So you just, it's super simple. Makes your life a little easier. So something else huge that we use a lot of is these, are these battery operated ratchets and impacts. So
yeah. All right, everyone. So next up is going to be just kind of a mix of different SAWZALLs that we've used over the years. The one on your left, my right, is this DeWalt one, and this is, I think, the second one that I've owned that was electric. And I thought it was great. It worked well. You always got power, but you're always having to plug it in, extension cord, drop reel, whatever. So it's great, but the problem is that if you want to go mobile or you just want to grab something on the fly and put a battery in it, these have come in handy, and we tend to use, if you can tell, this one's probably the most used out of all of these right now. So the Ryobi and the Rigid have come in handy. This one here is pretty nice.
Yeah, this thing's pretty different for a SAWZALL, not like a traditional pistol grip. It's still a pistol grip, but it's down here versus here.
Yeah.
So we've been able to use this. I use this, I think, to cut my fenders or my rear wheel well area. But I like this one. It's a weird kind of setup. It's got
a little bit of an angle to it.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I like it. Different from these three.
Yeah.
But then again, with the DeWalt, it's plug-in, like he was saying. It's a pain to bring out, plug in the extension cord, bring down the extension reel, whatever. So that's why we've only been really using the battery-operated SAWZALL stuff.
I'll tell you the benefit of having something corded, of course, is that if you run out of batteries, your batteries are always dead.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for recharge.
Yeah, luckily we have enough that we can always do a rotating charging cycle. You always got power as long as you got an outlet to work with. So there are benefits. I don't want to say power tools are out, but this is what we tend to use the most because it's more convenient.
Yeah, and we have a ton of batteries to back these up, more than we need. But if we need to, we can have 3 more ready to plug into this at any given point. So SAWZALLs are a huge kind of necessity for us, mainly because we're always cutting stuff up. We used a SAWZALL to cut, I'm pretty sure we used that SAWZALL to cut this thing in half.
Yeah, I think if you go back and look at the picture of the video, I'm pretty sure this is the one you made that first cut with.
Yeah, so even within the last year and a half, we've gotten 3 new SAWZALL variants. So
great to have a variety.
Exactly. And next, flashlights. When you're as blind as him, you need flashlights. So that's a huge item we use a lot of, especially when we're under the Jeep and lighting isn't good under there. We always have some sort of flashlight. These, I would say, are 3 most used flashlights, not because they're Griot's, but because they have magnets on them. So if we want, we can, this magnets. We use these to weld also, like if we can't see.
It's got a lot of metal dirt on it or whatever.
So you get the point. It'll stick. And you can
a lot of primer on there too, so that doesn't help.
But so these you can use for whatever. It's a freaking flashlight. You guys know what they are. But we use a lot of these for, like I was saying, under the Jeep because it's dark, not a lot of light in there. Just working on a lot of stuff, but also welding.
Yeah.
If we don't have good lighting for welding, we can shine a light on that.
Yeah, just for what it's worth. You can buy these still, Griot's. You can order those through Griot's. This is one that Griot's used to sell. I think we use this one. I tend to use it the most.
Yeah, and then our Rigid and Ryobi lights. I take these camping with me all the time. I actually bring this one up in my rooftop. Well, when I had my rooftop tent or when we're camping, I always just bring this up, and super nice, really, really bright. These 3. They all have pivoting heads. These 2.
That one swivels.
And this one has a hook.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then this one swivels, so if you want to rotate the head around, you can. But these are nice to have in, like if you want to set on the ground. And
I like these better. I've had some drop lights in the garage before. They're great, but you're always changing bulbs. You tend to drop it. You got to change a bulb out. These are great because you can just set them underneath the Jeep or under a vehicle, and you can kind of position them the way you want.
Yep. Yeah. So Lights are a huge necessity for us, like I was saying, because you're freaking blind.
That's not gonna change.
So yeah, we'll move on to the next item.
So next up is going to be some cutoff wheels, right angle grinders, things like that. And of course, I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of these. I think the one that we used a lot is this DeWalt one here.
Yeah.
That's, you know, obviously electric, but we use it a lot with our flat discs and some cutoff wheels. Again, that's being corded. You know, you're always having to plug it in, which is fine, but you got power nonstop.
But I think this one's more of a comfort thing. Like this to me is comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I prefer this one because the trigger locks out, where I know this locks out and this one does too. This one's a little finicky. This one's nice, but I just, like you can see there's a big difference. You don't have anything bulky at the bottom.
Right, I agree.
Whereas I'm used to using that one, which is why I prefer it, but.
And the power's constant on this, which is nice. This thing's been used. I'm surprised it still works now. It's been used hard for the past probably 3-4 years. These work great, but these tend to use up a lot of power, so you're always changing batteries out. So this thing will outlast. Let's say we're doing a job and it's going to take an hour to knock it out, whether it's grinding off some stuff on an axle housing. This will last forever. You're going to go through at least 2-3 batteries on one of those.
Exactly, yeah.
And then we got our little pneumatic cut-off wheels, die grinders, whatever. These things come in handy for a little bit of everything. We tend to use.
I like these because they're intricate. I can get into tighter areas or make smaller cuts. Like
more refined cuts. Something
huge difference between these two. A lot bigger. You're gonna cut more quicker. But
I know this may sound weird, but the only thing I don't like about these for cutoff wheels when you're using the little disc is you're going to go through these pretty quick depending on what you're trying to cut off, but it's time consuming to change these out.
Oh yeah.
It might sound like I'm complaining, but for me that's
a pain.
That's the only thing I don't like about it if you're going to use one of these. So.
Yeah, and then in addition to all these tools, we always try to wear eye protection and hearing protection. So aside from him being blind, he is also going deaf.
Pretty soon I'm going to have to go by feel.
Right? Yeah, I know, seriously, Helen Keller over here. But this is something recent we've been starting to do. Not recent, but within the last, since we started this project, it's just, I don't know, it's something important. I've done a lot of research. I've heard a lot of horror stories of people being deaf or blind now. No, but as a kid, you were doing stuff as a kid that you're 80 now, and
that's I'm not 80, but that sounds weird as a kid. So what he's talking about is something I did for years was I never wore hearing protection,
eye protection.
Eye protection. I did get some metal in my eye years ago that had to get pulled out with a pair of tweezers from the eye doctor. That was not fun. But hearing protection is a big deal. So, you know, I do have a little bit of hearing loss, but it's not age related, it is noise related. That is true. I'm being totally honest with you. That's what my hearing doctor told me. So anyways, so I do religiously wear hearing protection on a regular basis now. It is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, we try to wear this stuff all the time. It's kind of a pain, but you get used to it. Now every time we go to plug something in or turn something on, it's like, hey, let's just take 30 seconds, open it, plug them in, whatever, you're good to go. I like these, and you can throw them away. You don't have to keep reusing the same nasty pair.
You can?
You can, but I don't do that.
Anyway, so I think this is our second jar of these. You know, we've gone through one of these already, so these things come in handy. They work a lot.
Yep, and then basic eyewear. Something is better than nothing. Like you wear your freaking reading glasses.
I have to. But so on top of this, I will wear a full face shield as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Especially if you got sparks flying everywhere that's going to ricochet off your shirt or whatever. You want to make sure you're definitely protected.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So we'll move on to a couple of the last items.
Yep.
Alrighty, next item is going to be metal shears or metal cutting apparatuses. That's a big word. This is also something new for us because we didn't really ever work with any sheet metal until this thing. Until we cut this thing in half and we had to form this entire piece right here out of sheet metal, and we never really had a need for any metal shears or anything like that. What we have right here, both of these are pneumatic, and then this one is plug-in. These are called nibblers. I like to call them nipplers just because it's funnier. This is just a pneumatic version of this. This one's a little bit bigger. Moving back to this, so I have a hard time using this mainly because I just don't think I haven't practiced enough with it. But you can do curves and
Contours and
yeah. Whereas this stuff's more straight line stuff. You can shape more with this,
Yeah.
which we did for my wheel well area.
Right.
So the fender wells, we did use this for that. Metal shear stuff, freaking best thing I have ever used for cutting metal right here is this Bauer, plugs into the wall, Harbor Freight, 49 bucks. We were desperate one day, we didn't have anything to cut sheet metal with.
Yeah, our pneumatic one took a dump. I think one of the blades broke, so we were desperate.
Yeah, so ran to Harbor Freight, picked this thing up, brought it home, and it's been a world of a difference. Now, I'm sure there's gonna be people that say, that's the worst piece of crap you could use. Yeah, it might be, but for what we're doing, if we need to use this once a month or twice a year, it's more than enough. So if you are working on a budget and you need something to cut sheet metal, dude, go pick one of these up because it is so nice.
It cut some 16 gauge like butter.
Yeah, so metal shears, love them. Go get a set, go to Harbor Freight and get this one, especially if you're not doing a bunch of metal work every day.
Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna move on to probably the last bunch of different things that we tend to use the most or always grab when we need them is things that are used for heating up. God, it could be everything from bolts to
Metal to bend it.
Yeah, to shape it, whatever. If you guys watched the last video,
Yeah, we actually just used this yesterday.
yeah, this thing worked great. We were trying to take some bolts off one of the hinges, and they were the original paint. They hadn't been budged in years, so instead of trying to snap the bolt on the Torx head, which always happens on Jeeps for some reason, this, we went ahead and heated it up, and it worked like a champ. It's a little butane, burns
Yeah, you
automatic.
can probably pick these up anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
this thing, you just refill it. It's got a lock on it, which I like. So you don't have to hold a trigger down or anything like that, but super small and convenient.
Yeah.
You can even take it camping and light fires. We haven't even done that, but
Yeah,
I
we
just,
gotta try that. But it's also, it's got an attachment that you could use for soldering too. That's something
yeah,
that
that's right.
we've used before. So this thing comes in handy, great. Rechargeable, we've got a little butane container, so that works.
yeah, you just plug it into the wall.
Yep. That's a good one, I caught that. Next up is the acetylene torch. This is old school, like you're trying to heat something up, like larger pieces of metal, larger areas that you're trying to heat up, that comes in handy. We don't tend to use that as much anymore just because of the concern of, you know, overheating an area, flame, all that stuff, as you can imagine.
Yeah, it's more of just inconvenience. This thing is heavy.
Right, you gotta refill the tank. We got a spare, but it's always, you gotta make sure you have a spare on hand. And
Yeah, I think we typically use this more for metal fab, like if we have to bend a bracket, things like that.
Right.
We use this thing just because it produces a crap ton of heat.
Yeah.
It's an open flame, so it gets real hot. You can get metal red hot.
Or you're trying to heat up a larger surface, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's doing a center section on an axle housing or something like that. You could use it for that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest
Yeah, this is
tool.
his pride and joy. I never knew it existed until he brought it home one day or got
Yeah.
shipped here, but this thing is more useful than anything else I think we have here.
Yeah, this is kind of a sleeper tool. I'm surprised that a lot of people don't tend to know about this as much as they should. They're not super cheap, so you're gonna invest a little bit of money in it, but it definitely has come in handy. So basically it's called a mini ductor. Venom is this particular model.
All right, the easiest way to explain this is just to show you guys exactly how it works. So what's really cool about this tool is it comes with a ton of different attachment style or heating elements. So for different size bolts, so you can see how small that one is compared to this right here.
And it actually comes with a couple of other ones that are just, that you can make up your own coil if you're doing something larger. Maybe it's a bearing race that you need to heat up, or you know, whatever, or the collar around something that you want to heat up to get the bearing race out.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So the principle of this is magnetic induction. I had to really think about that because I forgot what it was called, but magnetic induction. So what this does, by magnetizing or creating a magnetic induction around that, when I turn this on, you might see if you can get the head. I was gonna do it on the threaded part, but this might work. See if you guys can see this.
Yeah.
Turn it on right now. Generally, you're talking anywhere from seconds to about less than a minute to get this red hot.
So yeah, it's already smoking. You guys can see that.
No flame. So that's the beauty of this, is you can do it in really tight spaces and only affect the bolt or the screw that you're trying to get out.
Yeah, so if you're working on a frame and you need to get a bolt out of it or whatever you're working on, you're only gonna heat up the bolt.
Right.
Now with the acetylene torch, you're heating everything up that flame is touching.
Exactly.
So whereas this, I can kind of just heat up what I need to heat up and not anything else.
I can already see it turning red. I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, but there's a little bit of red in there. If we turn the lights out, you'd know it, but you guys can tell from the smoke that thing is definitely hot.
Yeah, I would not touch that, but that is plenty hot for you to heat up the bolt and take it out, but that thing's cool. We've gotten bolts red freaking hot with that thing.
I think where this has come in handy a lot is,
oh yeah, busted the tip.
yeah, that's good. When we've taken some bolts out for skid plates, which on older Jeeps and TJs, as you guys know, those are definitely a rust area up underneath the skid plate there. Those bolts are always known for breaking loose up inside there. So before we ever loosen those, we always make sure we heat it up. That's if it's the first time trying to get them out.
Yeah, so probably one of my favorite things to use, because even if you may use it once, it is a complete life-changing tool.
Yeah.
Because before you're either drilling bolts out or you're cutting them off with a SAWZALL.
Retapping them.
Yeah.
It's so time consuming and
so this is kind of our first step and before we spend hours trying to cut a bolt off.
Yeah, we always try that first.
Alrighty guys, so for this last one, I guess, this is gonna be kind of honorable mentions. Definitely stuff everyone should have. Freaking WD-40. I think everyone should have, whether it's in your vehicle, in your garage, wherever. We use this in conjunction with almost everything we just showed you, especially when we're heating up bolts. Even with the mini ductor, we can spray this down, or spray the bolt down first.
Ahead of time, let it soak.
Yeah, let it soak and then use this. But we use way too much of this stuff.
Well, I know there's other stuff out there. There's PB Blaster, which I've used before. Personally, I can't stand the smell of that stuff.
I like the smell of this. Yeah. It's kind of addicting.
PB Blaster probably works good compared to this. I don't know. Everybody says it's a little bit better. I just can't get past the smell. It's too strong for me. It's a little bit weird. And then the next item that we use a lot, which I think most people don't even pay attention to, is some sort of anti-seize. There's aluminum, there's nickel. The aluminum anti-seize is what we use a lot. We always make sure when we're reassembling stuff, we try to put that on all the threads, any of the bolts we're working with, so that we don't have to worry about rust down the road, especially skid plate bolts. You know, those things are always known for rusting out.
Yep, yeah, so these two items don't really have a category, plus we didn't waste one area just going over one item. But yeah, two things we use a lot of as well. And I mean, is there anything else you can think of? Besides a welder, I mean, not a lot of people are welding, but we use the welder a ton. Plasma cutter we have, but we don't use a ton of. Tubing bender we have, but we don't use a ton of. A lot of this stuff we would love to use all the time, but there's certain jobs where
the right project will use it because it comes in handy. It's going to save us a lot of time.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, that's just kind of a pretty broad.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of different tools and a huge kind of variety of what we like to use, but that's kind of when we open the toolbox, it's kind of the first thing we pull out because it's just what works for us. It may not work for you. You may have other options, which is why I mentioned this is kind of like an opinion-based lineup. So if you have a problem with it, that's fine. It's just what we use personally all the time in the garage. But we definitely want to hear your opinions or what you like to use more of. Or if any of those were your favorite, tell us which one your favorite is.
Yeah, give us some feedback.
Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. I'm kidding, don't do that, but please give the video a thumbs up. So yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.